Hmm. So, exhausting this seeking energy, this primary lack, this inherent illusionary suffering that essentially believes oneself as sick and needs to heal a sickness that doesn't even actually exist. I mean, what a profound irony with the times that we're in, as I've shared quite often in regards to so many, you know, seemingly forgetting that the flu or the cold is even a thing. And as soon as there's any sort of symptom of some sort of sickness, immediately it's, labeled as the good old CV or Omicron or any of the endless names now we're using to identify and label, really just more pronounced detoxification symptoms, which happen all of the time, especially in winter, every single year since the moment that we were born. But without getting into that too much, focusing more on the primary illusion that gives rise to all the other forms of illusion that we find ourselves in, and the web of complexity that we find ourselves in within all of those realms. That could be the medical world, that could be the monetary, economical world, that could be the world of mental health, that could be the world of legalities and the legal world, that could be the world of education, science. That could be pretty much any categorized, compartmentalized section within our society that holds some sort of archetypal weight. All of them stem from the original egoic illusion, where we believe we are something we are not, and then go about living our entire lives believing we're this thing, and facing all of the suffering because of that original false belief. That then, just like food coloring, you take one little drop of food coloring in one huge gallon of water, and the whole thing will change color, or maybe just a couple drops. So we can see how easy it is to poison the psyche, the collective mind, the the sense of self, that illusionary sense of self that wants to take ownership of every thought, feeling, sensation, everything that's illusionary. It wants to believe that it is real so that it can find some sort of relief from its own suffering, from its own inability to recognize the primary illusion, which has given rise to all this suffering to begin with anyways. This is essentially what we're dealing with when we're speaking to a lack of fulfillment, a lack of intimacy in life, a lack of a feeling of joy and peacefulness, a lack of truth, real abiding truth, where we know the reality of things even without conceptualizing it, even without the idea of even being able to speak it, even without all the doctrines or the teachings or the practices or all the things that are there to reinforce it. Without all of those things in our pristine, pure, innocent, naked body, there is this knowing and this absolute knowing that there is this truth, and this truth is everything we could have ever sought out. It is the essential nature in which gives rise to all love and peace and joyfulness and fulfillment and success and achievement and all the different adjectives, all the plethora of things that we essentially have embarked on in our life, in every moment, in every walking day, to come into, to remind ourselves of ourselves again. And so we can see that even this, within the most utmost depth of the swamp of illusion, this mechanism of this ultimate desire to know truth, to know love, to know peacefulness, to know joy, whatever adjective that we can give to point to it, none of them can actually grasp it, but to point to it, we see that this mechanism is already inherent within us all. It is why we can contrast what is not true, or what we feel is not correct, or what we feel is unreal. It is why we can contrast it. So if there is this contrast that is always guiding, it means that we must already be that in which we are seeking. That in which does not suffer, that in which does not fluctuate, or that in which does not come and go, that in which is always true and will never not be true, that must already be inherent. That must already be present here, if we are able to then contrast and have the guidance system to know when something is not true, or to know when something is not righteous, when something is not in alignment. We each have this. Each being on the planet has this on some level. Even those who maybe have forgotten to such a degree it seems like nothing could ever bring them back, there is still an innate knowing. And maybe some are too far gone, or some are just an AI program, or some are just not even human at all, and that's okay. But at least if you're watching this video, we know that there is this inner contrast, this guidance that always knows and can contrast what is true and what is not. So if that is the case, then we only are then to acknowledge that, to come into an acknowledgement, which is really synonymous with a worthiness, to know that we are already there. That truth is already present, it's already here, it's already now. So there isn't really anything to do to get there, or to realize that, or to make that happen, because it's already what's guiding. So we could say the only practice from here, although there's many different other styles, but the primary practice would actually just simply to be everything exactly as it is. Exactly as everything is happening is to be it, and to be okay with it completely. To completely surrender, which isn't even an accurate term, but we could say for the purpose of this, the surrendering of the perpetual need to identify, to take ownership, to hold on to control, to manipulate, to attach, to expect, to grasp, and to kind of that almost like vampiric vibe, all the movements of experience, so that one could then somehow have a sense of control that they are on the path of enlightenment, or on the path to realizing greater consciousness, or they're making progress towards a sense of self or something like this. And although on the surface that may seem quite productive and quite helpful and quite beautiful, this is actually what can cause the culprit of that incessant, almost vampiric-like vibe of the seeker that's constantly fiending for more, constantly feeding for the next course, booklet, teaching, perspective. Someone recommends this, and then they're all down that rabbit hole, even though they were just on a rabbit hole that was going all right, but now they just jump ship from that. Now you're on to something else. It's that incessant, deep abiding illusion, that deep lack that perpetuates the same energy, like an addict that moves from one thing to the next, one thing to the next, one thing to the next. And although on the surface it may seem like there's progress, really when you look at it, there may actually be hardly any progress at all. So what is it then to just be with everything exactly as it is, to simply be okay with things as they're arising? And in the practicalities of that, there may be some beautiful thing that naturally arises to take care of things in a practical measure. Like if you spill water on the floor, you get the paper towel and you clean it up. It doesn't come from this deep place of lack. It doesn't come from this deep place of, to avoid suffering, to uproot an illusion. No, we're just simply cleaning up the spilt cup. So in this sense, that seems like such a more effortless ride, such a more easeful place to be, to already see oneself as this arising truth that gives way to the contrast that guides in every moment what is true and what is untrue, what is righteous, what is unrighteous, what is in alignment and what is not. A very clear sense. And coming to that and reminding oneself that, and then again being with everything as that arises, because to be able to actually sense that contrast, you have to be willing to feel everything. This is why no one feels they have any sort of inner guidance, because they're not willing to feel anything. Thus, they cannot feel the contrast between what is true and what is untrue. They will just simply avoid and numb everything that feels uneasy, so that they can somehow feel like they're going to get a glimpse of what is true for them, but it never comes. Because it's in the knowing of what is not in alignment through the playground of this life experience that we will come into the clear understanding of what is true, and remind ourselves that we have always been that truth. And then if we are the truth, then why would we have any fear to experience the untruth or the suffering or any of these appearances? Because we already know we're the truth. So all of that stuff is but a dream. All of that stuff has no bearing whatsoever on our path or on who we are. Right? Again, if we are perpetuating this inner lack, we are perpetuating this desire to become something bigger, better, faster, stronger, more pronounced, more evolved, more spiritual, more, and it keeps going like this machine. But it's really actually a protection mechanism, because one is so insecure as to who they are that they need to keep adding and building and just going and going and going and going and going. And everything that is suggested from some other, they have to grab a hold of it and make it their own quickly themselves, so that they don't fall behind, or they don't, risk, not progressing as well like other people. And you see this program that moves. So that program just, and I'm illustrating it in such a pronounced way today because I'm mirroring back to you what it does, what this inner energy just moves and goes like a machine, like an AI program. And that is, the source of the suffering. It's the source of the perpetuation of just pretending one's like a chicken, wearing a chicken suit and just going about their path endlessly in this chicken suit, instead of just coming to rest. Right, like putting it to an end, coming to rest, and being willing to feel everything exactly as it is, so that you see that the greatest of spiritual paths is already the path that you're walking. It's already the life that you're living. It's already all the things that arise within your day-to-day, moment-to-moment experience that reveal to you where there is that incessant need to control and attach and take things personally and identify and trying to become better and this and that, which again, all of those things are fine in and of themselves. But if they were all connected back to this web, this illusionary web of the lower ego, that is like this gigantic vampire trying to hold on to everything and identify with everything to continue to push ahead its sense of identity, its sense of who it thinks it is, and what it thinks is as truth, rather than truly being humbled by life itself, and every moment life humbling you, humbling all your concepts, all your theories, all your dogmas, all your attachments, all your systems, practices, things that you think are getting you to this place and away from this other place. All of those things are humbled endlessly within life itself, because we find the master teaching as life itself, the God self manifesting as everything already. So that would be the highest devotional practice. That would be the highest technique or method. And it will humble every aspect of oneself in its complete entirety, again and again and again and again and again and again. And every time reminding one again and again and again and again that there was no one that was ever suffering anyways. Suffering has been just this big illusion the whole time, the whole time, the whole time. Right? You've been playing in the chicken suit, playing in the chicken suit, playing the chicken, walking around thinking you're a chicken. But really, that's never actually been happening. And so the light becomes so powerful, it blinds you. Look at that. There's nothing to prepare for that. Right? There's nothing to prepare for this light. It'll blind you up anyways. All the details of what you're trying to been perfecting, it blinds everything anyways. So it didn't matter. Once this light is realized, you see it didn't matter. All the spiritual accoutrement, all the beliefs and dogmas, all the roundabouts, all the healings of this and that, it just all continues to get engulfed with such strength, spontaneously. Imagine every moment is healing you already. It's not just the specific meditation or the sound healing or this specific diet or this guru or this teaching. Imagine every moment of life, every fractal, every particle of life, every particle, every one of these light rays, and everything in between, all the spaciousness in between. Even this wall is healing you, This tree is healing you, right? This face, this space is healing you. It's all healing you. Everything is in a perpetual process of this purification, because the God self is always here. So it's not just one thing healing and this other thing that's not, right? It all is. It's all a product of the same healing. And so then from that perception, we are led to all the frequencies and all the things that surely do feel in much alignment on this relative path, because we each have that relative path and we may be drawn to specific things and not to others. Of course, that's the individuality, right? That's the uniqueness. But if we're starting on this foundation, it becomes far more efficient. Instead of that small personal me trying to decipher between all these things and manipulate all these things, can control all these things. Oh, this is good for my healing and this isn't, just like we try and do with pleasure and pain, chasing all the pleasures, thinking all the pain, that's not for me. I don't like that stuff. But yet so much of that is actually what's bringing the true integration. And again, the reminder for us to just be everything in a perpetual surrender, where there isn't this ongoing selfing, this identifying, constant taking ownership, constant, oh, am I doing the right thing or the wrong thing? Is this thing moving me forward to enlightenment, or is this moving me away from enlightenment? This perpetual overthinking, perpetual overwhelm from this need for certainty, this need to protect from the unknown, and particularly the need to protect from God's source appearing as everything already. What would be the greatest fear of them all? All the things that we think are fear of, or the fear that God's self is already everything already. It's already been watching and hearing every single thing we've ever thought, said, done, felt. Everything has been logged, and everything has been balanced on the karmic field in the law of choice and consequence. So we cannot run from ourselves. We can only but take complete self-responsibility for everything that we've engaged in, everything that we've embarked on, everything that we've moved. It is all us. There's nothing to avoid. There's never been anything to avoid, because you cannot avoid it. You cannot run from God's self being known as everything already. That is the ultimate fear. That is the reason why so few still realize the truth, the ultimate truth of enlightenment, the ultimate truth of the absolute reality. It's this ultimate fear. To know that you're it already. You've always been it. It's not the boogeyman. It's not the boogeyman. It's not Satan. It's not the devil. It's not all these other things out to get you. It's not all these other people with problems making it more difficult than for you. It's not life itself. It's not COVID. It's not governments. It's not all these superpower aliens in the world, or these histories, these things in the body or out of the body. It's that original illusion, that original lack that stems from our own movement, that we could say is both of the utmost free will and that in which has just simply arisen. The illusion that has just simply arisen but was never actually there in the first place, but it is up to us to see it this way. So what a message, what a video. Hope we sit with this and take this in. Deep love.